about how inefficient the system is that we have that's going on right now. If you get an appendectomy in Baltimore versus New York versus Los Angeles, different costs, different ways of submitting bills, different ways of collecting, all of which justifies the mountains of paper and the armies of people to push it around, all of whom have to be paid out of the healthcare dollar. This is absurd. And we're just paying like 30% of the healthcare dollars on administrative costs.
Oh.
There are a whole host of other things that we should be thinking about. Incredible inefficiencies. And then we have to also deal with tort reform. Now, why are we the only nation in the world that has this big problem with medical malpractice? Is it because our doctors are worse than all the others in the rest of the world?
Got too many lawyers.
Well,
the lawyers.
that's just it. The one thing that we have that they don't have, the trial lawyers association. And actually, tort reform has come up before in the House and actually passed. But every time it gets to the Senate, guess what happens? It gets filibustered by the senators who are in the hip pockets of the Trial Lawyers Association, so it can't come to a vote. We have got to get a filibuster process in it so that we can get these things done. And the other thing that we have to remember, and I think perhaps the most important thing, is we need people representing us who believe in God and who believe in godly principles, because those are the things that made our nation strong. Those are the things that gave us our morals and our values. And if we allow the politically correct secular progressives to gradually move that off the stage, then you will begin to see more of what you're seeing already, an erosion of our position in the world, an erosion of our morals and standards, an erosion of our economic base, an erosion of everything that made this into a nation that was worth fighting for. And it's going to require determination by all of us. We cannot give up. We have to be just like those people 200 years ago at Fort McHenry. Remember during the War of 1812, we're celebrating 200 years now? The British had decided that those young whippersnapper Americans, they are coming back under British rule. And they were winning as they marched up the eastern seaboard, destroying city after city, destroyed Washington, burned down the White House. Next stop, Baltimore, Fort McHenry. We would run through that and finish the job. And as that armada of British ships rolled into the Chesapeake Bay, it was a grim day. Battleships as far as the eye could see, intent on destroying us. General Armistead, who was the leader at Fort McHenry, had a large American flag constructed to fly over the fort. The British admiral was offended. Take that flag down. We're in charge here. You've got until dusk to take that flag down. And if you don't, we will reduce your fort to rubble. We will continue to fire until you take that flag down. There was a young amateur American poet on board by the name of Francis Scott Key. He had been sent by General Madison to try to secure the release of an American physician. And they weren't going to let him off the ship because they'd overheard the plans. And his heart was sick that day as he realized his fledgling young country and his countrymen were about once again be separated to the British crown. And as the sun set, the flag was still flying and the bombardment started. All night long, bombs bursting in air, missiles streaming. It looked like the 4th of July. The debris and the dust was so thick you couldn't see what was going on. After a while, he just gave up trying to see. Went to rest. But at the crack of dawn, He was right out there on the railing, straining his eyes, but there was just so much dust and debris. And as his heart sank, there was a clearing. Just enough for him to see the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The torn and tattered stars and stripes were still there. And many historians say that was the beginning of the turning of the tide of that war. And we went on to win that war and to preserve our freedom. And if you'd gone onto the grounds of Fort McHenry that day, at the base of that flag, you would have seen the bodies of American soldiers who took turns holding that flag up. They were not going to give up. They were not going to let it go down. And that's what we have to remember. In the face of all kinds of opposition, in the face of things that are antithetical to the founding of this nation, we cannot give up. We have to hold up the flag, and we need to support Roscoe Bartlett. Thank you.